Alright, back in the basement, but we're taking a break from the Atlas here after last night's very disappointing failure of the JB weld repair on the bracket here. So I'm gonna hold off on that now and turn our attention back to the job that I've been dreading, which is finishing the prep of the chip pan. So I'm gonna try and finish up with the wire wheel here tonight, and then maybe back this up. Right now, I'm shooting with the Sony CyberShot, the DSC-H3, and the quality is set to the highest quality, but that's actually not very high on this camera. All right, so I just had to enter the menu there to refresh my memory what it is, but the highest quality setting for video shooting with this camera is only what they call fine 640 resolution. So that's not that great. So just for giggles tonight, I'm gonna take this camera and shut it off, and I'm gonna switch to the old Bloggy, which has been dropped, mutilated, smashed, pried apart, and halfway destroyed, and still actually works. There's going to be some spots in the picture because the lens is damaged, but the resolution on that's actually 1080. So I want to see what kind of a difference we get with that. So the very next segment here is going to be me. I'm going to start with the Bloggy. Even before I damaged the Bloggy, I had some pet peeves about this camera. I liked how small it was. One of the things I didn't like about it, though, was that it's got a internal battery that is non-removable. So I can't take the battery out to charge it. To charge this, I actually have to plug it into a live USB port, and it takes a while to charge. And battery life was so-so on this. And then the other issue, of course, was the internal memory would fill up, and then I couldn't shoot anything until I downloaded everything off the camera onto the laptop, as opposed to the other camera. I actually didn't have an extra card for the other camera, so I guess it's not really much of a pet peeve after all. Anyways, let's get some live action shooting here with this thing and see how it goes. Okay, I'm gonna keep the respirator on because it still stinks down here. But I've been spending the past several minutes messing around with this, just a foam brush that this is a used foam brush I had. I just cut off the painted part that had dry paint on it. I'm just kind of using it to wipe down and try and push all of the majority of the dust that's in there into a pile, and then down that center hole into a container to dispose of it. I really don't like this method I'm using here. I'm gonna avoid doing something like this in the future just because the dust is really fine. I was going to use my shop vac to suck it up, and the problem is that the filter in the shop vac might not be able to filter out the really fine particles. So the shop vac exhaust is going to just, create a plume of tiny particles of this dust. And this dust may very well, there's a high possibility that this dust contains lead from the paint. So it could be a real health hazard. I really don't want that residue all over the place. So and try and get the bulk of it out just by brushing it out into a container, and then I'll try and wipe it down with rags moistened with some cleaner. Oh, by the way, I'm back onto the Canon in case you can't tell. You know, a little while back I talked about that ugly green color. I think it's ugly, that was on the lathe here on the chip pan underneath all that grease. And I talked about how I didn't think that was the original color, and that it just seemed like a color that must have been really popular, must have been dirt cheap to buy at some point, because I know a lot of guys online talk about remembering working in shops when a foreman would come in and just say that they were going to paint all the machines that color. But it just goes to show you, I mean, this is that banjo bracket that I got in that lot of parts that came in, Atlas parts. Now, my Atlas lathe has not a speck of green paint that I could find on it. It seems to have mostly the original colors on it. But this one, this bracket, it's got that very close to that ugly green, a little more metallic than some of the other ones. But I just thought that was kind of funny. And then I'll show you on the lathe, because this is pretty well stripped. A lot of the parts of the lathe practically look black because they're so dirty. But underneath that, a lot of that dirt, there's that green paint I was talking about there. And what got me to thinking about mentioning that commonness of that paint was I just happened to look here. This is the spindle for the SIP drill press that I brought in from outside. So I could work on it, and you can see on that it's also got that green color. So I got really mixed feelings about this project as far as painting this lathe, because you know, I've gotten to this point now, so I'm going to paint the chip pan, and then the legs are going to be a lot tougher to strip. I'm thinking I might try oven cleaner on those, just because they have a lot more little tight corners in that are going to be difficult to get into. The good part about the lathe legs are that they're not so much a wear part. You know, hopefully I can not have to get as aggressive stripping those. As far as colors go, right now I'm leaning towards, there were a couple of colors that were popped up on the radar, and the one I think I'm going to actually go with for the lathe here is, I think it's called the Royal Blue. It's a dark colored blue, similar to what might have been seen on, I think, some of the earlier, like, I don't know if you've ever seen any Reliant woodworking tools. Let's see if I can find something. Yeah, maybe close to this shade of blue. You know, pretty dark. And I'm basing that right now just on my limited choices I have as far as off-the-shelf Rust-Oleum products, enamels in a can. So I don't know. I might check out paint store and see what I can find there. The other possibilities are some tractor colors, tractor paints that are available. Those are enamels that would probably be good for painting this, but I think I looked online. I didn't like a lot of the colors. I don't want, you know, like an International Harvester red. You know, I don't want a red lathe. there's like a light machine gray. That's a color possibility also. But I was thinking I might do the SIP drill press in the light gray. I was thinking I didn't want all the tools to be the same color, so I was thinking maybe doing the lathe in blue and the press in gray. I don't know. I was just talking about my mixed feelings about painting the lathe, and the big reason is because I'm looking at it now and I'm thinking I've already gotten to the point where I've bitten off more than I can chew here. Cleaning this is going to be, I still haven't quite figured out how I'm going to go about cleaning all of this grime and dirt and crud off of this thing. I mean, that is just nasty down in there. And you've got all of these areas here on the headstock underneath there that are going to be almost impossible to get to. So then my next thought was, well, now that I got the cherry picker, why don't I, you know, the engine hoist over there, why don't I pull the headstock? But even that, you know, I don't know whether or not I want to get into that. You know, I've got mixed opinions on how difficult of the job that would be. Definitely if I want to clean underneath here, that would certainly make that job easier. And actually cleaning the headstock itself would be easier, I think, because I'm thinking I could suspend it over a pan and just kind of wash all the crap down into a pan. So that's why that's tempting. Whereas if I try and wash this down now, a lot of it's going to go down inside of my quick change gearbox assembly and that, and that's not, you know, good. And then, like, I'm not sure how to go about taking the carriage off on this lathe. This is a lot, you know, different deal than the Atlas. The Atlas was easy. This has got this whole heavy apron section in the front here, and it looks like I see a screw head there. It looks like there's 2 screws here and 2 screws here that hold the apron up to the bottom of the carriage here. But I can almost guarantee you that I'm just not going to be able to take those screws out and drop the whole apron off, because you've got the lead screw going through the back there. I mean, it's going through a half nut here, but it's also going through, you know, there's more going on behind there that I'm not familiar with. I mean, even just this lever here, you know, the way that looks like that goes through. Well, okay, that looks like that goes through this bracket right here, and that bracket looks like it's held on by 2 screws here, which looks actually like one of these is loose. I don't know, but I'm sorry, I don't have really good light over here. Alright, so what I was looking at over here in the dark that you couldn't really see is that bracket right there that rod is supported by. That looks to me like that is just probably held on by these 2 screws right here. That one's backed out a little bit, so that's why I thought it might be a little loose. So maybe this wouldn't be a horror show to take this apron off. And then once the apron's off, I'm thinking the carriage I could probably run right down the end and slide right off. So yeah, I'm sorely tempted to try and take this all apart. Well, I'm gonna have to give this some serious thought, because I mean, before I would undertake such before like I haven't already undertook something that I'm probably in over my head on. Before I decide to go that step, I've got to give this some hard thought, because for starters, I've got to clean up this basement a lot more. I've got a lot of room I'm opening up on the other side there. Been working on the insulation there, still haven't finished that. Really need to get that done. Get some shelves set up, get some of the stuff that's on the floor up off the shelves. Get myself some serious room so I have places to organize and keep all of these parts that I'm going to end up with if I take them off. And then of course there's the Atlas fiasco. You know, I gotta decide what I'm going to do about this thing. I'm kind of at a standstill with that darn bracket being broken. I'm thinking maybe I should at least just put all the change gears and everything back together, so that this thing's like more or less ready to go as soon as I get the bracket in. Of course, I'm assuming I'm still going to get lucky on a bracket. You know, I'm really regretting when I saw the ones on eBay that were selling for 40 bucks that I didn't just buy one. You know, but I was holding out with the hope of maybe being able to repair this one, or, you know, or just, quite frankly, being cheap, I think, too, was part of it. Being a little too cheap. You know, I should have been happy to pay 40, you know. Well, it's almost 10 o'clock at night. I'm going to go upstairs and sleep on it.